Strategic plans are good. So why might your strategic plan be tucked away on a shelf somewhere or hidden in the files on your computer? In this video, I'm going to give you 3 things that your strategic plan must do so that it doesn't end up being a big old waste of time and money. Hi, I'm Beth Strathman. Welcome to my channel where I offer common sense leadership solutions so simple and wise your employees will practically lead themselves. On my channel, I offer a wide variety of leadership strategies and techniques. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. So that strategic plan. There are 3 things, like I said, that they really must do so that you can actually use them. After all, you're probably spending a lot of time and money hiring a consultant to come in and help you go through a whole strategic planning process in addition to everybody's time who's involved in that process. So if you're going to create this plan, you want to make sure that it lives and breathes, that it's useful, and it really helps you drive your business forward. So here we go. First thing that your strategic plan must do is that it must answer the larger questions about who you are and where you're going as a company. So some of those questions might be that you want to ask yourself in this larger question. The big strategic questions that you want to ask are, what's the legacy that your company wants to leave behind? What about customers? Who are they and what are they? How can you serve them better? Competitors, who are they? What are they offering? How can you beat them at that? Or how can you find something they're not offering and head for that niche in the market? What do you do best? How can you build on it as a company? So that's your edge. So how can you really use that edge to move your company forward? What opportunities are out there in the marketplace that you can seize that maybe somebody else or very few people, if any, have already recognized? What about potential setbacks with all these grandiose ideas? What might get in your way? What could happen that might set you back? This might be things in the market like stock market or regulation or something in the industry that might come along and derail maybe what these plans are that you're talking about. What about potential scenarios to consider for the future? How are you going to prepare for them over the time? So these bigger questions, of course, this is what your strategic plan must do. Sometimes they don't. So I'm just going to say this is one of the things you have to make sure your strategic plan answers. Secondly, once you get these larger ideas in place, then you have to figure out, okay, what's going to get us there, and set your top 2 or 3 priorities for where you're going to focus on to move in that direction. One of the things that a lot of companies do is they list all kinds of priorities. They'll have a dozen different priorities. Well, let me just say, if you have more than 2 or 3 things that you're calling a priority, they're no longer a priority. So narrow it down to 2 or 3 things that the whole company is going to focus on. Of course, each division or each department will focus on them in their own way based on their competence and their functionality, but just 2 or 3 priorities to focus on to move you forward. Also, with those 2 or 3 priorities, as you're discussing maybe this laundry list of priorities to get it down to 2 or 3, that discussion is very valuable, right? So you start to really see where everybody's heads are about the direction you're going in, and that just the discussion itself helps you to further narrow your focus and get really, really clear about what the strategic plan is going to accomplish. And another thing you can do as you're setting those priorities is create a little tagline or a short little motto that just helps everybody remember where the focus could be. And then finally, the third thing that your strategic plan must do so that it's not a big old waste of time and money is you have to have the guts to implement it. This is why that darn plan could be sitting on the shelf, is It's great. We can sit around and think of all this stuff and we can be very strategic, but now you have to be tactical. Now you've got to translate all those thoughts and ideas into actual action and timelines and who's going to do what and who's going to own what and who's going to do it by when. So the execution part is a big piece that I see missing a lot from some strategic plans. And you just have to, make sure you're committing the right resources and enough resources to achieving the plan. You've got to look at where people have been spending their time and if there have been other things that we've said are important. And maybe now with the new strategic plan, we have to tell people, look, that's going to be back burner now. Now we've got this new strategic direction and we want you to clear that project off your desks, and we're going to go in this direction. Here's the real projects that we want you to work on now are these. Another thing might be, failure to be very clear about who has what role, what their responsibilities are, and the timeline. I kind of mentioned that earlier, but make sure that's very clear. Who owns it, who does it, when does it need to be done, that kind of thing, and what systems maybe need to be utilized, retooled, whatever, to make things happen under your strategic plan. And then another thing that people do in the execution is they throw their hands up in the air and quit when the going gets tough. They go, oh, this is too hard. People aren't really behind it. Well, you know what? That's part of the strategic plan. You got to figure out how to get people on board. You've got to talk to people throughout the organization and include them in those discussions about how this plan is going to go, how it's going to roll out, etc. So answer the big questions, focus on 2 or 3 priorities, and make sure that you execute it, that you have an action plan for making it happen. So of those 3, which ones is your company maybe not as good at? Which ones do they tend to fail? Which one of those 3 big ticket items for having a strategic plan does your company most often miss the mark with? Let me know in the comments below. And also like this video if you found it helpful. Share it as well. And yes, I'll always also mention that I have my conversation planners. The link is in the information box below, so make sure that you pick that up. That'll help you have really productive, hard conversations, maybe around your strategic plan. So till next time, I'm Beth Strathman with Common Sense Leadership Solutions. So simple and wise, your employees will practically lead themselves.